Hello, welcome back to See What Sticks, a podcast about everything and nothing. I'm your host, Russell, and I'm alone again. I know. It's becoming kind of a part of the show that Russell ends up alone. And that's fine, because this week, it's another low-effort podcast with minimal preparation. Someone just texted me. Yep, now I'm going to go a cappella. I'm going to go improv on this whole thing. So yeah, this week on the show, we're going to talk about what I've been up to since the last show, why this episode is coming out late, and some of the craziest facts that I've found online. So, let's get into it. Also, I'm really sorry because I don't have a pop filter on this microphone, so the P's and B's are going to be a little harsh. I'm really sorry. It is not my fault, and it's going to be really hard to get through a podcast without saying P's and B's. So let's get into it. So since last time, Emma and I went to the premiere or Chicago showing and after party for a film called Secret Santa, which is a horror film. Unfortunately, we did not make the showing because of some traffic issues. However, we did go to the after party, and friend of the show and previous guest and will be returning guest Curtis was there, and he's a star of the film. So that was really cool to see Curtis with the cast of the film, along with the writers and directors and everyone else who was associated with the project. Fun fact that I didn't know about the movie until right before we went. YouTube comedian, entertainer Drew Lynch is in the movie as well, which is kind of cool. So someone who has like internet fame is in this movie as well, which is cool, and I mean, hopeful for me. Maybe one day I'll become internet famous, and maybe one day I'll be in a horror movie. We can only dream. So, yeah, that was that. And it was awesome. I got to speak with the director, whose name is Adam Marcus, who directed the film Jason Goes to Hell, which is pretty sweet. I didn't know that until after I was done talking to him. Emma told me that was like a fact, and I'm like, that's so cool. And he's like the nicest guy ever. Yeah, we talked about movies, of course, because he's a director, and I pretend that I do stuff in movies. Ooh, sorry about that, P, guys. Excuse me. Yeah, and it was really, really, really cool. And Curtis and his team actually won an award, or Curtis and his crew won an award at the film festival for the movie. So congrats to him. Sorry, guys, I'm recording this actually in a basement, so if it sounds a little different, that is why. But yeah, congrats to Curtis, and a link to the IMDb of the movie and all the information on Secret Santa and where you can find out how to watch it or get in contact with the right people will be in the description of this show. But yeah, so that's what I was up to. I'll give you another clue. I'm technically done with my undergraduate in college. I'll give you another clue about what school I go to. Neil Armstrong went there. That's my next clue. The first one had to do with our clock not having a traditional 4 on it. And now Neil Armstrong. This one will be easy. You can just Google where Neil Armstrong went to school. That's where I went to college. But yeah, that's my next clue. And if you guys don't look it up or can't figure it out, you will know next week. And by next week, I will have officially capping down graduated, which is really fun. And now I get to be a real person in the world. Yep, that's how I feel about that. Just a sigh. But yeah, so sorry if you guys can hear me breathing through the mic. It's a little bit of a different setup this week. So it's either I speak really close to the microphone like this and you can hear me breathe, or I talk really far from the mic and you can't hear me. So we have a little bit of an impasse we're going to go through, but we will figure out as a team, because that's what we're about here at See What Sticks. Just doing stuff and seeing if it sticks. What else? I still haven't seen Marvel Infinity War or Avengers Infinity War. I know I'm like the only person on the planet who hasn't seen it, but I've seen all the movies leading up to it, so I don't feel like a complete waste of a nerd. But yeah, I'm super excited. Hopefully going to see that in the next day or two. I've just been really busy with finals. That's why this is coming out late. I don't remember if I told you already and explained myself for my lack of dedication to putting out the show on time. But I'm sorry. Hopefully that won't happen again. And I think we're going to move the podcast release date to Fridays. A lot of people release on Mondays, and I used to do that up until a few weeks ago, but weekends have become kind of difficult. A lot of moving around, me with doing school stuff and everything else. So it's been a little tricky. So I think in the future we're going to start doing our uploads on Fridays. So for all the people who listen, that's probably when they're going to come out. But keep up with the Twitter and everything, and you will get notified. Or if you follow the Facebook page, I'll put an official when the podcasts are going to come out, because I'm going to make them more regular and make it more like every blank day at 5 p.m. the podcast will be out. And good news I talked about last week that I'm still working on is building a website, I guess for myself and the podcast, which will be cool. And then branching out, officially doing video stuff with the podcast, starting maybe next week when I'm done with commencement and everything else, where we'll have legitimate video and all of that, which, will be really, really cool. And it's going to be the SWS Productions is what it's going to be called. So See What Sticks Productions. And yeah, so those of you listening on here are like the early adopters of the, I guess you could call it production company. But yeah, so that's kind of where this is headed, where the podcast will still be what it is every week. But then there'll be like YouTube things or other videos that we make, or just other things that we want to dabble in under the See What Sticks name, which will be cool for people who don't want to listen to an hour of this every time. But yeah, and if you're listening to this from like LinkedIn, or just if you don't personally know me, thank you so much for listening. Also, if you do personally know me, thank you so much for listening. It means a lot. And I wish I could give shout outs, but a bunch of people who I've had classes with and such have asked me about the podcast, which I think is really funny that people ask me about a thing that I totally forget goes out to people. Like when I put these out, in my mind, I'm just kind of uploading it to like a closed network and no one ever hears it, but people do. And actually, funnily enough, when Emma and I were at the, for the after party for the film, one or two people came up to me and they were like, "Oh, are you the guy from the podcast?" Which, I mean, I answered yes, but it's weird that people know who I am before I introduce them, because they know something I've done. It's kind of a weird, cool feeling. I don't know if I like it, though, because I don't like being the center of attention. Which is weird, because I do a podcast. Makes you think sometimes, right? Okay, but enough about that. We are going to... also, we're going to do the See What Sticks book club, or the See What Sticks, we're usually just watching a thing club, as a separate episode every week, or a separate segment of all the episodes. So there'll be something completely different, and there'll be kind of a commentary to something else. So that's going to be a separate thing. So there'll potentially, if everything goes to plan, 2 episodes a week, and not as much P and B clipping in the microphone, which is always a plus to professionalism. You know, I should probably just say as many words with that as possible. But you know what? Let's get into some of these weird facts. I just went to BuzzFeed for this because you guys know how much research I do for this show. And yeah, so sorry if it sounds different. I'm just moving the microphone around because I'm like holding it like a musician or a singer. Usually it's actually just sitting on a desk, but right now I'm going to break the fourth wall of the podcast for you guys. Actually, I think all podcasts have no fourth wall because I'm talking to you. But I'm breaking the illusion of professionalism here. I'm recording this on a bed. I'm not laying down. I'm like sitting up and I have the microphone on my lap and I'm looking at the laptop in which I record this into if I'm not at my apartment recording into a big computer. So yeah, sorry, that was too much information for you guys. But okay, here's some incredible weird facts. The longest time between two twins being born is 87 days. Which what? That's nuts. That's 3 months. Okay. Are these real? I mean, it's from BuzzFeed, so I'm not saying everything on the internet is true, but I'm like, BuzzFeed's kind of accredited, so maybe it's real. Okay. The world's deepest post box is in Susami, Susami, Susami Bay in Japan, and it's 10 meters underwater. Cool. Let's see if there's any really weird ones. Oh, here's a weird one. Did you know female kangaroos have 3 vaginas? You know what? If that was one of those questions that, like, someone put a gun to your head and was like, what do female kangaroos have 3 of? I would never have guessed that. Does that mean? No. Sorry, I'm being dumb. I was about to say, like, does that mean they can have, like, 3 separate, pregnancies? But no, I don't think that's what that means, and I'm dumb. I'm sorry. You guys are going to look or listen to this and be like, this guy's an idiot. But if you've listened to more than one episode of this, you probably already know that. Okay, some of these are really annoying to read, and they're like a paragraph, and I'm not reading that on the podcast because I'm lazy. And yeah, we're going to skip that. So we're going to go to a different website. Oh my god, it's also a lot of reading. Guys, what is going on? So to fill up time, I'm going to go to this one because I read through all those facts before. However, reading them on a podcast does not come across as well. Oh, here's some cool ones. Did you know Mr. Potato Head was the first toy to be advertised on television? Huh. That's cool. I wonder if it has a year there. No, there's no year. But that is really, really, really cool. I would never have guessed that. Oh, a duel, like fighting between 3 people is called a truel. Like try? Huh. Good to know. Through the magic of editing, you guys would not have known that my computer just died because it was not plugged in. Okay, so I'm back after 20 minutes of figuring that out, but in your time, no time has passed, which is magical. It's like time travel for you guys. So, we're back to some fun facts. And this week, I'm going to be less of a sarcastic monster about all of them. Or maybe I'll just turn back into a sarcastic monster because that's usually what happens. Let's see. What's our next fact? So, apparently, banging your head against a wall will burn 150 calories per hour. So, if you guys are out there and you're frustrated about maybe not being able to burn calories, or you're just frustrated and want to burn calories, you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. So, yeah, cool. Next time I'm frustrated, I'm going to just hit my head against a wall until I get fit. Okay, so next, a UK fact. So, in the UK, apparently, it is illegal to eat mice pies on Christmas Day. So, I don't know if you guys can tell by my accent, I'm not from the UK. And mice pies? Is it like mice? What? Okay. And I guess you're not supposed to eat them on Christmas. Cool. Weird. Now I know that. And on Christmas, I will not eat my mice pies in the UK. This is kind of a cool one. Nature fact for all of you nature lovers out there, which I guess you all should be. Nature's pretty sweet. When hippos are upset, their sweat turns red. That's actually super, super cool. Is it like blood red? Huh. Weird. More things you know. See, there's a lot of questions, but I'm asking even more. Or they're not questions. There's all these facts, but I'm asking questions. Interesting. Sorry, guys. I'm just really tired. A flock of crows is known as a murder. That's actually super cool. So, wait. A flock of crows is called a murder. Wouldn't it be a murder of crows is called a murder? Huh. The little things, right? So Facebook addiction disorder is a mental disorder identified by psychologists. Huh. Facebook addiction. You know what? Yeah, out of all social medias, I don't think Facebook would be the one I'd be addicted to. Sorry, I just dropped my phone. I think it'd probably be YouTube if I was addicted. Is YouTube a social media? Yeah, it is. Sorry, I'm stupid. When I think social media, I think like Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, Facebook. Yeah, I guess YouTube is definitely a social media because it's social and there's a lot of media on there. What? An average woman uses her height in lipstick every 5 years. So what I think that means is like a tube of lipstick is a certain amount of inches tall, and a woman will go through her entire height in lipstick in 5 years. What? That's crazy. Sorry, I can't wrap my head around that. Because I thought I've never worn lipstick. But I thought like a tube of lipstick lasted like 9 months kind of thing. Because it's not much you put on, right? It's like, I was thinking of it like chapstick. Or like lip balm. I guess I'm wrong. Cherophobia is the fear of fun. Huh. Weird. What? The human saliva has a boiling point of 3 times that of regular water. What? That's pretty cool. Okay, going off on phobias. I think I've talked about this on here before. Okay, we're going to talk about some of my phobias because this just got me on this topic, and I'm going to go down this rabbit hole with you right now. So, do you guys know what trypophobia is? Or, I'm not looking it up because it's going to show a picture and it's going to gross me out. I think it's trypophobia or trypophobia. Well, if you guys don't know what it is, it essentially is the fear of a bunch of holes in a certain like order. It's like a cluster of holes. So if you have ever looked at the inside of a pomegranate, it has all those little like dimples or pores. It grosses me out to no extent. Like a close-up image of a human's skin or even a human's eye, because inside a human eye, if you get really close, there's all these little pores and they're like circular and it's just super gross. And someone asked me, are you grossed out by like a cheese grater if you're like have this fear of a bunch of little holes in one area? And the answer is no, because it has to be organic. It has to be organic in nature. So like there's like videos on the internet of stuff like that. There's like a frog whose mating ritual is the male frog and female frog, they mate, and then the eggs live inside the back of the female frog and they emerge through these little pores in the back of the female frog, and it has these little holes, and it grosses me out so bad. I saw a video of it on YouTube and I'm like, nope, turn it off. I'd rather watch like Saw or something like that than watch this because it's gross to me. If you guys have ever heard of the kissing bug, this is Emma's fun fact of the week for her bug fact, for Emma's bug fact corner. We're going to talk about the kissing bug and its bite or the like lesion it leaves afterwards has a bunch of like those little orifices or little like what's the right word, like is it orifices is the right word? Like pores, like large pores or just like divots, and it looks like that, and it grosses me out. It's disgusting to me. Like the inside of a natural sponge, gross. And I'm not about it. But yeah, that's something that I have an irrational phobia of, is a bunch of holes. Um, what else? Oh, my biggest fear, like my biggest fear for all of you out there, is home invasion. Like, I know I've talked about like my epilepsy on the show before, but you know what? Seizures don't scare me as much as home invasion does, because at least you can suppress seizures and help them with medicine. There's no medicine that can fix home invasion. I guess walls can fix home invasion and locking your doors, but still, if someone wants to get in your house, they'll get in your house. It freaks me out. Like right now, I'm recording this in a basement, and the room I'm in right now has no windows. And there's this maintenance closet kind of thing where there's like a water pump. It's in my house, so I don't know why I call it a maintenance closet. It's like a storage closet. Literally right next to me, like my feet can touch it. And then there's this closet across the room from me that has just like our Christmas tree in it, and just like hangers and just jackets and extra things. And then there's like a separate bathroom down here. But if you lock all the doors, you close the doors, there's no window, so you don't know what time it is. And I slept down in this room last night, and I forgot how like it's dark because there's no light coming in. It's black, like you can't see your hands in front of your face. And I'm like, oh, there could be someone an inch from my hand, and I can't see them. Freaks me out. So what I'm telling you guys is I have the courage of a 6-year-old. So keep that in mind if any of you are trying to come scare me. Just know it's really easy. And you know what? I should post it to the See What Sticks page on YouTube. For all of you who don't know, I'm going to plug the show on the show. All these episodes go on YouTube. So if you're listening to them on Spreaker or on iTunes, and you want to listen to them on YouTube for whatever reason, like at work, or if that's easier, they're on YouTube under See What Sticks. But on that note, I think I'm going to upload a compilation that Emma has of me scaring me and like running out of a room to scare me, or waiting behind like a door. And I always say the same thing when I get scared. And I try not to swear on the podcast, so I'm not going to say what it is, but it's O, and then there's a word. It's a 4-letter word. And you guys can put together what it is. But yeah, those are some of my fears. Oh, also, I hate blood. That's just, oh my God, it's the worst. So I guess I have a story about blood for you guys now that I'm on this topic. So I was a lifeguard from the age of like 14 until I probably have talked about it on the show before, but I was probably 20. Yeah, probably 14 to 20. And the entire time I lifeguarded at like 3 different places, or 2 different places, but a bunch of different managers. I only ever had like one save, or like I only had to get in the water to help someone once, and they weren't like dying, they weren't like unconscious, but there was like they were struggling to get like the right amount of air, and they were kind of like thrashing around. So I had to go and help them, and it was really cool. I guess it feels really good to help someone out, but it's really scary. But what I'm saying is I never really saw blood on the job. But there was one time, I may have talked about this on this show. I don't remember, because I talked about this with people recently, and it very well could have been on the show. But so what happened was I used to work at an outdoor pool, and then I moved to an indoor like YMCA pool facility thing, and I was a swim coach as well as a lifeguard. So I kind of like doubled up on my job. So I was always there. And there's only one time that I ever like saw blood, and I legitimately almost passed out. So there was at this YMCA, like most YMCAs, I don't know, I've only ever been to like 2 in my life, but at this YMCA, which I worked at, there was like, we had a pool, and we had like a track above the pool and like a workout room, and then down the hall from the pool there was like the basketball courts with like the rock climbing wall and all that stuff, like the recreational sports ball stuff center area. There's definitely a name for that, but I'm bad at words right now. So what happened was we got like a call on the walkie-talkies to go over there, and I was like, that's weird. They don't usually ask us to go over there, but I mean, all the people who work there are first aid and everything certified, because you never know what can happen.
And so we went over there, and there was a girl who like sliced her foot up on, in the bottom of those like gym doors, they have those little like circle wheel things that the doors lock into, and there's ones at the top, and the doors like fasten into those, like they're like metal rivets. So her foot was on it, and the door closed onto her foot, and it was really bad. Like I think the cut was probably maybe like a few stitches, but oh my god, so much blood came out of such a little person, and I felt so bad for this girl. And as at the time I was probably like 19 or 20, and I almost fainted, and I felt like so, I don't know if it wasn't like kind of embarrassed, but also like one of those, because I always told people at work, I'm like, I don't like blood, and people saw this, and I got like all lightheaded, and I had to sit down. It wasn't even my own blood, and I was like, ha, I told you guys I'm not good around blood. So that's like another phobia or thing I hate. um you know what, on blood, I may have told this story as well, but I smashed my hand this past year at like the gym at my apartment complex. So what happened was, there was this dude. I was lifting with one of my roommates, and there's this guy behind me who I still call Muscle Jesus, because this guy had like long Jesus like hair and beard, and he was really jacked. So he is Muscle Jesus. Was in the gym, and my roommate and I were using dumbbells, and so I went to go put the dumbbells back on the rack, right? And so there's like a slight slant, so you have to put your hands into the rack, set the dumbbells there so they like grab the little hooks, and then you're good, right? But Muscle Jesus was right behind me and bumped into me, and one of the weights slipped and smashed my pinky finger between the rubber dumbbell, like the bell part of the dumbbell, not the handle, and the like the side of the holder, or the side of like the rack. And oh my god, I thought my hand was gonna fall off. And it was bleeding a bunch, and it like lifted my nail up, which is a super good thought for anyone who's listening to this, especially if you're eating dinner. I want you to focus on that thought. There you go. It's in your head. Now that's with you. So that happened, and I I turned to my roommate Nate. I'm like, we need to go now. And I just showed him, and there was legit, the first few seconds, there's blood that kind of squirted, not like projectile, but it didn't just dribble out. It was like there was a little bit of force, and it got on my shirt. I was actually wearing a white shirt that day, which was perfect. And then Nate and I went on an adventure to go to the hospital. And it was a fun night. And I hate blood. And I think that's actually, knock on wood, I just knocked on wood. That's like the last time I've seen blood in a very long time. And hopefully I don't see it anymore. Just because it's like the worst to me, and I'm a giant child when it comes to blood. But yeah, I was talking about fun facts. Let's see. Let's go back to those. Let me unlock my phone. And you know what? You know what I have a problem with? I have all Apple stuff, for you guys who don't know me. Um so yeah, I have all Apple things. So my computer's Apple, my phone. I don't have an Apple Watch, but like my headphones have like the Apple A1 chip, so they connect to my iPhone and my computer. And we have like an Apple TV and everything. Oh, sorry if you hear that creaking. I'm in a basement, so there is creaking. I hope that doesn't bleed into the podcast. I'm sorry. So everything I have is Apple, and Touch ID is just so finicky. And I know people who have Face ID say the same thing for the iPhone 10s, but okay, it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I know this is such like a champagne problem or first world problem, but like, I hate it when I'm laying on my bed making a podcast, and I'm trying to get my next topic up, and my fingerprint reader on my nice phone won't work. Isn't my life so hard? Okay, I saw a really good one on this thing. Oh yeah, it said heart attacks are more likely to happen on a Monday. I don't know where the fact for that is, or where that comes from, but that would kind of make sense, maybe because it's like a work day and it's more stress and there's like meetings and stuff, and maybe that's why. I don't know. That's really interesting. Huh. Here's another one. An eagle can kill a young deer and fly away with it. Cool. Oh, that reminds me. There's this video that kind of went viral maybe a few years ago, and then I saw it on Instagram, like a bit of the video recently, and it's this footage of like a falcon or maybe a small eagle, and it picks up a baby, and it's like in this park, and it picks the baby up and drops it, and people are like, oh my god, did you see like the video of this happening? It's not real. It's I think it's a student project from these students, I think in Australia, and they like got an A on the project, or it was for like a little film festival thing. It's not real for people who've seen that and are freaking out that a bird is going to come steal your baby. So yeah, that it wasn't real, but it is a really cool video. If you guys can hear that, maybe I've said it before. I do have dogs, so that's a thing. Yeah, so those are some fun facts. Let me see if I can find more, because those facts aren't that fun. They're just like, oh, you know what I mean? Yeah, you guys know what I mean. So, let's see. This one looks to be a more promising website. 155 interesting and weird fun facts that you should know. Oh my god. Wow. Okay. McDonald's frequent buyers of the food are called heavy users. Huh. That sounds like a really bad name for someone who consumes food, a heavy user. You would think that if like a drug or with like alcohol, a heavy user of this. Huh. Weird. I guess, I mean, McDonald's isn't good for you, so you know what I mean, whatever. Actually, McDonald's is great for you. If you want to sponsor me, McDonald's, throw money at me. That's why I'm doing this. It's all for the money. Just kidding. A single cloud can weigh more than 1 million pounds. Where are these facts? Where are these sources coming from? Here's one. Coca-Cola would be green if coloring wasn't added to it. Cool. You know what? On that, I have recently discovered that I like Pepsi Zero. So I don't drink soda really in general, just because like the sugar and everything. And I've been on a diet recently where I just tried to like lose a bunch of weight, because I was like, it was right before I went to Mexico, or a bit before. I'm like, oh my god, I want to go down to Mexico and be able to go to the pool or like the beach or do whatever, and be able to like take my shirt off in public and not have people vomit or try to arrest me. So I've been doing that. So I gave up sugar and bread, which it's really hard to do if you guys have never tried to do that. Giving up sugar and bread, super difficult. So I got into Pepsi Zero with studying for tests at school and just working on things, and then like editing this podcast and just everything that I do, working on the film I was doing. And I realized I really like it. And you know what? I can see it now. And before I was like, I hate soda. Which, you know what? I don't really like Coca-Cola. I don't. Unless Coca-Cola wants to sponsor me. Coca-Cola, I love you. But yeah, Pepsi Zero, it's like a thing. I like it. I know I'm not supposed to, because I think I talked about this on the epilepsy episode, but if you have like seizures, or at least with me, I'm not supposed to have a bunch of caffeine. But Monster, the one with 0 calories, 0 sugar, that stuff tastes like kind of like Sunny D. Sorry, there's people walking above me. That stuff tastes like Sunny D, and it is incredible. Okay, so next fact. Let me find something cool. Oh man. Okay, another hippo fact. There's, I guess, a bunch of hippo facts here. A hippo's mouth opened up can fit a 4-foot tall child. What? Also, did you know that more people die every year from hippo attacks than alligator attacks in like Africa, which is so crazy. Because with a hippo, I know like everyone is like, hippos are crazy dangerous, which obviously. But when you just see a hippo or saw a picture of it, it just looks like a weird, goofy, hairless cartoon cow animal. But in the water, they're so fast, and on land, they'll like flip over a truck. Hippos are nuts. Chewing gum while cutting an onion can help you from crying.
Interesting. Maybe it has to do something with the mint in gum, or maybe not. I don't know. Because I know with the onion, it's like this acid, this acidic-y kind of thing that lets off as like a defense that makes you cry. It's an irritant. So maybe the mint and the gum will help that. 95% of people text things that they could never say in person. Is that a fact? Or is that just like a thing someone said? Okay. A crocodile can't poke its tongue out. Actually, that one I did know. Crocodiles' tongues are like fastened, or they're like, I guess fastened. I don't know what the right word for it. They're fixed to the inside of their mouth. Same with some amphibians. Fun fact: I actually have a salamander named Sigmund, who I've definitely talked about on the show. But Sigmund, I didn't know this. I was actually researching a little bit about tiger salamanders because that's what he is. And when they eat, they get like let's say it's like a cricket. They get in their mouth and they literally open their mouth and close it, and like the force of them opening and closing their mouth is what pulls the food into their body, because they don't chew and they don't really have like a tongue like a frog. Really interesting. Nature's pretty cool. Okay, here's another one. 9 out of 10 Americans are deficient in potassium. Weird. Okay. Blueberries will not ripen until they are picked. Weird. This next one, I did know this. Honey will never spoil. Yeah, honey, like pure honey, can never go bad. It's one of the few things. There's a list somewhere. I think maybe I've brought it up on the show before, which I know is the most common saying of this podcast. But honey and like 1 or 2 other things naturally cannot go bad. So like you could, in theory, have honey from like 65 million years ago with the dinosaurs, and you wouldn't get sick in theory because it doesn't spoil. But I'm going to go off on a tangent on this before I end the episode because I'm by myself and sometimes I just go crazy when I talk. But I was listening to my man Neil deGrasse Tyson on his podcast, and I wish I could be that smart and have that cool of a voice. But what he was talking about is someone asked him why we have never, quote, never made an encounter with like extraterrestrial aliens. And so he gave, or like the thing that he cited, gave a few reasons, and I thought it was really interesting. So the first one, I'm going to just talk about him, and I know this is from Neil deGrasse Tyson's podcast, but I'm going to talk about it because I think it's really, really cool. And for those of you who don't listen, I'm going to plug his show. It's called Star Talk Radio, and it is a podcast that you can find just like you can find this amazing podcast. Excuse me. So on Star Talk, what happened was the person who wrote in and had their question was like, why haven't we come in contact with aliens? And there's a few answers, and I think 2 of the most interesting, and I think there's one that I'm taking from another video, but I'm going to kind of compile my own things or my own ideas from smarter people who I definitely respect. So the first one was because of light speed is why aliens may have never come to see us, and why we may have never seen extraterrestrial aliens that we know of, potentially. That you can take that with what you will. But the reason was because if you think about light speed, it's the amount of, like a light year is the amount of time it would take this something at the speed of light to go would be a year. That's like 1 light year is at the speed of light. It would take you a year to get from this point to that point. But if something is 165 million light years away, and you were able to like look through a telescope to see us and them, what you're seeing is something 165 million years ago, right? Because light speed. And that light is reaching you from 165 million years ago. So if an alien civilization was looking in at Earth, what they would see was dinosaurs. Or right when the meteor hits, and they'd be like, oh, there's nothing to see here. It's just dinosaurs. And if they're that advanced of a civilization, they're like, cool. We've seen this before. I don't know, maybe. But maybe they were there then. Who knows? But yeah, that's like one thing that they talked about for a reason that we might not have come in contact with aliens. Another one that was interesting is I forgot his name, but he was on an episode of Star Talk, and he was this author and scientist and like astrophysicist who's done a lot of research, but he's compared it a lot to science fiction, and it was really interesting. He was talking about our planet and what kind of civilization we are, and like a type 1 civilization or like a tier 1 civilization is a civilization that has full control over their planet, and Earth doesn't even have that because our species as like humans are still warring with each other, so we're not even at like a type 1 planet yet. And then like a type 2 is you control your entire solar system, so you control your star, so it's like one species controls like all the planets in our solar system. And then a type 3 would be you control your whole galaxy, and that's like a type 3 civilization. So like what you could think of in terms as like the Empire in Star Wars. Which brings me to another point about what they were talking about is how would the Empire in Star Wars be able to have a centralized time if they're all across the galaxy? You couldn't, because light speed, it'd be impossible to communicate with each other throughout the galaxy, and throughout like all of the reach that the Empire would have had. So that's like a weird scientific inconsistency in Star Wars, unless the Empire was able to use like wormholes and wormholes to communicate with each other to like shorten that space. But that's a really cool nerd fact that's like, oh wow, science is pretty cool. But there was another thing, a third thing that I'm going to talk about that has to do with kind of aliens and sci-fi and science. It has to do with what the late, great Stephen Hawking said about time travel. The only way we can ever get time travel backwards is if we're able to make negative energy. And I'm not a mathematician or a scientistician by any means, and I don't exactly know what that means, but the only way you can find negative energy is in a black hole, apparently. And so in the future, there's like a potentiality that like a group of scientists or like aliens from somewhere else have developed this technology to harness this negative energy. And because of negative energy, if you combine it or use it the right way, you can move backwards through time. The weird thing about that, if you think about it, is if you're able to do that right, wouldn't we have met people from the future already? Because if you think about it in time, they're from the future and they would have come back to talk to us, right? That's what I thought. But on this episode, they actually solved that problem of, wait, if there's time travel in the future, wouldn't we have met time travelers from the future in our day today? The answer is no. So they gave the example of, if you had a time machine, what would you go do? A lot of people are like, I would go save Abraham Lincoln from John Wilkes Booth. So what happens is if you travel back in time to go to the Ford Theater to do that, you would be saving an Abraham Lincoln from an alternate timeline, and so that would alter different timelines, so you would still be alive. And it's one of those things where you can't go back in time, like in Back to the Future, to meet your young mom and have like a weird, creepy relationship like in Back to the Future. So that can't happen because it's an alternate version of reality. So you couldn't actually erase yourself from reality. You're essentially making an alternate timeline on a different level. And the way they described it was like reading music where there's like different lines. You just make a new line, which I think is really cool, which goes into like the theory of like multiverse and all of that. But I just think that's really cool. It's just like a different possibility of something that could have happened using science. That technically Stephen Hawking, before he died, said it in theory can work. However, we're nowhere near that level of like scientific knowledge or like ability to even like harness that kind of power. But I think it is really, really cool that is like someone that smart and who knows that much is like, oh yeah, it is possible in theory, which I think is really cool. But yeah, that's my thing on that. Oh, also with aliens, I was reading a thing, and it was like an article posted from a YouTube video. So I read the article and then watched the video, and is it called the earthworm theory? It's something like that. So it talks about if you're a normal person walking down the street and you see like an earthworm or like a cricket or some small animal, even like a bunny, you maybe look at it, but you're not going to stop and go out of your way to do anything with the animal, like a squirrel. You're not really going to stop and go out of your way to interact with the squirrel, right? Because it's like below you. You're like higher on the food chain. You're higher. You have your own priorities, and that squirrel or that insect or what have you isn't part of your priority list usually. And that could be said for like Earth is that squirrel or that insect, and the aliens are like what the people would be, where they're like, they see us and they're like, yeah, who cares? We don't need to deal with them. They're like too simple right now. And I think that's another really interesting way to look at why we may have not contacted or had like contact with aliens that we know of and stuff like that. But I'm a firm believer in like aliens and all that. Even if maybe they've never contacted us before, I'm like, there's no way there's not other life out there. That's just my opinion. But yeah, I think that's like pretty much it on the alien thing. And I'm a huge geek about stuff, and I love like Star Trek, Star Wars, all that kind of stuff. Even like I was talking about before, like Infinity War and all of that, and it deals with like space and time and reality. I think it's so cool when a movie or any kind of science fiction or science reality can do that and make you just think about alternate things that could be a possibility. I just think it's super cool. It makes me nerd out and makes you want to like believe. But yeah, that's pretty much the show. Another one by myself that's had a weird computer shutdown in the middle. Hopefully that wasn't too noticeable. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks, the website will be up, the SWS Productions website, and all episodes will be able to be found on that website from then on. Videos will be up there, and that'll be like the new home for See What Sticks, which will be really cool just because, I mean, Spreaker has been awesome, but we can have it go through a centralized location then and build more of like a community atmosphere for the See What Sticks fans and everything else. And like I said before, I actually am in talks to have a theme song for the podcast being created, hopefully sooner rather than later, and potentially, this is a long shot, like having stickers made with the See What Sticks logo. If anything, I'd just probably buy 100 for myself and put them on all my stuff. But that is a thing that may happen in the not so distant future. So yeah, look forward to all that. And then the See What Sticks book club, that's usually just a movie, will be separate episodes. So I think I'm going to decide officially what the first one is going to be. And then we'll go through that and kind of do a trial run to see what people like. But I know that continuing on doing this, eventually I'm going to try to do Game of Thrones or Westworld or a show that people want to watch or maybe have never seen, before, and that we can go through as like a creator and fan base and bring everyone up to speed for the final season of Game of Thrones, because it's going to be a big deal, but it comes out next year, so we have time to figure that one out. But yeah, thank you so much for listening again. This is See What Sticks. It's a podcast about everything and nothing. And again, I have proved it is about everything and nothing. If you want to reach the show, all the links are always in the description of the podcast. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, we have Twitter. I personally have a Snapchat, but I'm not giving that out. But yeah, and we have email, and the email is letusseewhatsticks@gmail.com, and everything else is seewhatsticks at Twitter or whatever. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for people who email in. Thank you for people who retweet, all of that. Next episode we'll have Curtis, and we'll talk about his movie and horror movies and just go down a rabbit hole of that next time. And hopefully Emma will be on the next podcast, and it'll be a good time. But until then, thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry about the late episode, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye-bye.